welcome to our Insight. How are you doing?
Well, Marius, thank you for having me.
No, listen, TransUnion goes back to when?
1901. It's been around forever. Well, way back then we were called ITC, which was the single credit bureau in South Africa. And for many of us, be it you and I or our families, we know about the bureaus and they're linked to credit decisioning.
There's that thing called blacklisted.
Correct, which is a massive misconception in terms of the role we play. But unfortunately, given our central role in helping banks make decisions, it's something we've become used to over a period of time.
I see you've got some books in your hand. I mean, that's valuable. I mean, that is 1960, the Auto Dealer's Digest.
Well, absolutely. You know, this book, the Dealer's Guide, is really interesting because back in 1960, a company called Mead and McGrother actually used to go door to door checking the stock inventory of a dealership. Times have moved along.
Thankfully, that's how long that would take.
We bought this company some 20 years ago, Mead and McGrother, and we've started to digitize and move things along. So, original book back in 20 years ago, or 1960 rather. Here's a book, the current version of the guide, which is a lot cooler, but things have changed as well. We're changing the game by saying every dealership should be digitized. And if you're not digital, it's not cool to do business with you.
Well, look, let's get to you as an individual, because you joined the company January 2017. Background is IT.
Well, absolutely. I guess my background's been largely around transformation. So I've helped the largest banks, telcos, retailers change their businesses to be relevant in a digital world, one that's connected with tons of data flowing. Now, when you think of TransUnion, after 19 years in a large career, I moved across for the single reason that TransUnion has the motherlode of data. We've been doing it forever and a day. We've got some of the smartest minds around it. And when you think about the country that we live in right now, Marius, problems like financial inclusion, social inclusion, we have the opportunity as a young group of people to change the face, not just of data, but solve problems that communities face, businesses face, and not just easy problems. They're very relevant. How do you grow their businesses? How do I help a community member get their first car? That's a lucrative problem to be solved.
How then do you provide solutions to manufacturers, to banks from a motoring perspective in terms of making that data readily available?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, I mentioned the Mead and McGrother business that we own. This is a key part of the entire value chain. If a vehicle dealer does not have an M&M code for a vehicle, they actually can't sell the vehicle. Okay. So we're intrinsically involved at the very start. Now, we mentioned the books earlier, but I have a large group of people that processes every single transaction happening in the marketplace, and we're able to figure out in partnership with the industry and the OEMs what the price of this vehicle should be in the next year. So that value is key to how we fit into the value chain.
Well, I suppose, I mean, you had your vehicle pricing index, that sort of info, I was reading through it, really insightful, because it's what I see on the ground as well, is that I think it's only the second time in the motor industry that we've had an increase in the value or the pricing of second-hand cars.
Well, that's right. First to point out, we're a highly indebted society. As much as 73% of the disposable income of South Africans goes towards servicing debt. Now that's a huge pressure on the economy, but it means a few other things. As consumers, we struggle to get access to finance, and we've seen over the last few years and quarters that the move has been towards pre-owned vehicles. However, something changed in the back end of last year. We saw for the first time that the price increase of new vehicle cars was below that CPI mark. Okay. So a couple of things. One, the deals being put forward by the new car market was quite lucrative. Secondly, the stock of the used vehicles were all but gone.
Well, look, I mean, the two work hand in hand. It's a perfect pendulum. I mean, there's no stock now. Suddenly, it's pushing people back. More people get into new cars. That's just going to increase, stock for the second-hand car market down the line. How do you help people? I mean, we spoke about blacklisting right in the beginning. How are you able to, using data which isn't human, how are you able to bring a human element to it so that banks actually consider people as people and give them a second chance, I suppose?
That's actually a great question, and one of the key reasons why I joined TransUnion. We've made a clear move away from what we call point-in-time decisioning, which has a very, very stark look back at your last 24 months, to something we call next generation behavioral scoring. And what this means, Marius, is everybody deserves a second chance. You may not be good according to a typical lens or perspective, but if I'd really thought about Marius in a different context, Are there additional attributes about Marius's life that could make him a good customer for a vehicle finance house?
Look, I mean, this for me is really fresh thinking, because, all of us in our life cycle are going to go through those tough times, and I think to be punished for that is ridiculous. If you're showing a change in your behavior patterns and how you're managing your finance and your life, you should be given that chance. But I think in a tough environment, people are looking for new business opportunities. So I think you're obviously assisting the banks in terms of creating that as well.
That's right. So I mentioned earlier that we've moved the book onto a mobile app called TransUnion One Check. What it allows the dealers to do for the last few years, in fact, is able to profile you in a much better way, much quicker, in a matter of milliseconds, to figure out more about you. So for example, as opposed to filling in reams of paper just to test drive, it's a matter of digitally signing on a mobile app, plugging in an ID number, plugging in your registration number. But guess what? We're able to check on the fly, are you the person that you say you are? Is your vehicle actually ready for sale? Is it stolen maybe?
What do you
Right?
owe?
What you owe?
Yeah.
In fact, are you trying to buy a car out of your bracket? So if you walk into a dealership that's clearly out of your bracket, then the salesperson on the floor is able to see that. Now, all the way from stopping fraud in real time to figuring out the actual identity of the person, this allows you to actually buy a car in a much quicker way. And why is it important? In a digital world, nobody wants to walk into a dealership. Nobody wants to walk into a bank. So we've been taking all this wonderful data we have and moving away from data to ask the question, are there use cases that make it easier to walk into a dealership? It shouldn't be such a pain using what you have in front of you.
Before we run out of time though, because we could chat for another 20 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about you and your car. We are driving your personal car, the new Q7. What does it say about Lee that you chose this car?
Well, to be honest, I've been an Audi guy since 1998,
Okay.
right? This is my third Q7, and you always get tempted by other brands, but ultimately, the quality of this vehicle is amazing for me.
But it's interesting because I suppose as South Africans, we are very brand loyal. Maybe mom and dad had Audis and that's how you got into it. I know there's a family story from a PE perspective that you had some tie into VW and the brand originally. But I think we're not going to leave if our service is good and the experience and the ownership experience is good. So I suppose that's also key to understand.
Now, this is really important because we always say that customer experience is key, and we've forgotten about that for a long time. Now, in a world where times are tough, where products are actually priced very similarly, how do you actually distinguish your brand to a person on the street? The same way I feel about my Audi, right? How do you get somebody else to feel about this Audi as they walk into the floor? And what's cool about the day we live in today is that we can now connect the visuals of advertising and brand with the data we have to know that Lee does like Audis or Marius likes a certain vehicle, and start to hyper-personalize to what Lee needs. Because nobody just goes and surfs documents and magazines and just Googles for Google's sake. We tend to know things that make us happy.
It's very emotional.
That's right.
It says a lot about you as a person. Lee, I mean, we've gone over our allocated 10 minutes like this because it's actually so refreshing talking to you, someone who's so passionate about humanizing data almost. I think that is key. All the information is there, but it's making sure that somebody, a company like TransUnion, can take that information and actually put a human quality to it.
Well, that's right. I guess ultimately, if we can use information to do good, to solve problems that matter, then not only is TransUnion benefiting, but the community, our clients, and the entire economy could potentially benefit as well. And that's ultimately why I joined TransUnion and why we're on the journey that we're right now.
Very, very cool. Thanks for your time. Thanks for trusting me with your Q7.
It's my pleasure.
Did I pass?
You did very, very well.
Listen, thank you very much. It's certainly great having you on Ignition GT.
Thanks, Marius.